Hello everyone! Today I'm going to go over something that a lot of people have asked me about, which is how is it like being a freelancer versus a full-time salaried employee? So let's get right into it. So a little bit of background, I was a freelancer for about 6 years. The rest of my time I was a full-time salaried employee. Back in 2012 or so, I was working full-time at an agency, and I know I wanted to make a move, wanted to go to a different company, but I didn't get any responses after reaching out. So I figured, you know what, a coworker of mine had been freelancing for about 10 years. It seems like that is a viable career path as well. So I decided, you know, I'm still young, might as well try freelancing. And little did I know that that would be my life for the next 6 years. The good thing about freelancing is you're your own boss, so you don't really have to wait for someone to come give you a job. That being said, just a disclaimer, when I did decide to make the leap and jump into freelancing, I was kind of getting my feelers out there, reaching out to people who I have worked with in the past, seeing if anyone within their agency needed any freelance help. And I was able to get a gig that way. It's generally easier for companies to hire freelancers than full-time employees because the latter is more of a commitment on the company's part. They have to give you benefits, they have to like onboard you, a lot of things that they have to take care of. But with freelancing, if they have the need, if for example, there's a new business pitch and they need someone to kind of come in and help out for say 2 weeks or so, they can easily find a freelancer and not have to go through like 3 to 4 rounds of interviews or whatever. One of the first things I did when I decided to become a freelancer was set up an LLC. So that's a limited liability corporation. There are many benefits to having one. The main two that I feel are important is one, if someone decides to sue you for whatever reason, your personal assets are protected from liability. And two, you get to expense anything that's related to your business. So for example, you know, if you buy a new computer that you're using for freelancing, then you know, you can write off taxes for that. Even though most of my freelance gigs I have found through someone I knew within the company, there are some instances where, you know, a freelancer might want to reach out to a placement agency if they don't want to kind of do that sort of legwork themselves. And what a placement agency does is they help look for any available freelance gigs that seem to suit your skill sets and your experience. And then, you know, they set you up with that company. But because there's no such thing as a free lunch, those placement agencies do take a cut. So they either do so by charging the company that's going to hire you a finder's fee, or they will take a portion of your paycheck. And that portion really varies. It depends on how much leverage they have sometimes. There was one time where I went through one of these placement agencies and I had requested $85 an hour because it was all remote work. And they told me that the most they could give me was, I think it was like 65 or something. But after I actually passed the interview, they suddenly found some money and they're like, okay, we can do 85. And I think it was probably because they're like, all right, this candidate is certain to get the position. So rather than take a gamble and try to find a different candidate, we might as well just, you know, take a smaller cut. So there's some negotiating there as well. It's no hard number, I feel. If you don't want to go through a placement agency, you can circumvent this by finding your own gigs. Most of my freelance jobs have actually been through someone I know within the company. And if someone does end up recommending you, make sure you buy them lunch or something, because they're saving you from getting a portion of your paycheck taken out by a placement agency. So you're bringing in more money each time. One of the best things about freelancing, which unfortunately we don't really get to enjoy now, is being able to work at different offices around New York City and being able to meet new people. It feels like the first day of school every time I start a new job. Freelance jobs really vary in length. I've worked at agencies for 2 days to help with like a new business pitch, and I've also worked there for 2 years and been able to kind of jump from team to team, helping out on different types of clients. As a freelancer, you don't have to work for an agency. You can also work for yourself and find your own clients. I like to charge hourly or day rates when I'm freelancing at a company, so that I have a set window of time that I know I'm expected to work, and anything I produce in that time goes towards the company. For my own clients, I like to charge a project rate. This keeps everything very transparent. They know from the get-go whether I'm someone who is within their price range or completely outside of their budget. It also, just avoids any conflict down the line when it comes to dealing with money. Some clients, for example, are not as experienced with hiring freelancers, so they might not have a good idea of how long it typically takes for you to complete a design, which can lead to a lot of over or underestimation. When you first start freelancing, it's understandable that you're going to not have a very clear idea either how long it takes you to complete a project. So for example, how much should you charge for a logo design? You're not sure because you haven't had too many of these types of projects before. So there's going to be a lot of trial and error. And in the beginning, you're probably going to end up working more hours than you expected. But over time, you're going to start really developing a sense of your own agility, your own velocity, and be able to charge clients accordingly. When you're deciding on a project rate, definitely factor in revisions as well. I typically put in 2 to 3 rounds of revisions. And the reason why is because you don't want your client to come back to you 10 different times and tell you, hey, can you change this color? Wait, no, go back to that color, or anything like that. Otherwise, the project might just take forever and you might end up spending way more time than you had intended to. When deciding whether or not to take on freelance projects, usually there's a couple of factors that come to mind. The first one is pay. So is the client paying me what I feel my time is worth? And your definition of what your time is worth might be different. It can be dependent on your level of experience or dependent on your geographical location. So for example, if you are living in San Francisco, your rate is probably going to be a lot higher than someone who lives in the Midwest. If a client is really cheap in the beginning and promises you many, many more opportunities down the line, don't bank on that, because they're probably not going to suddenly become generous. If they really value your time, they would pay you what you're worth from the beginning. Another thing that I consider is, do I even like the project? Is it something that I enjoy doing? Because I'm going to have to put in many hours. And if I'm dreading it every second, then I might as well make better use of my time. Also, do I envision a long-term relationship with this client? Are they likely to provide me with more recommendations or more jobs down the line, and I feel like they're paying me a fair rate? I had a client one time who, when I left my agency gig, they provided me with enough work for the remaining 4 months out of the year to cover me all the way through to like half of next year. Another thing to consider is, do I even have the time to pick up this new project, or do I have other priorities? So for example, if I have 2 to 3 big projects on my plate, I'm not going to take on a 4th or 5th because I feel like it will affect the quality of my work with these other clients. And you can always reach out to them down the line if they're still interested, or just talk about collaborating on future projects when you don't have as much to do. They say that kindness goes a long way, and this is totally true for both a client and also the contractor. Because if I feel like this client is super rude, super difficult to deal with, I'd rather not have to go through that sort of mental stress, When you're freelancing in a company, they're probably going to make you sign some sort of non-disclosure agreement so you don't go spilling the beans about them to all their competitors. They also, like I mentioned earlier, own everything that you produce for them within the time that you are employed. When you're taking on your own freelance clients, you will have to have your own contract to both protect yourself, your client, and also set realistic expectations. Personally, because I'm not an IP lawyer, I found mine somewhere online through a template and then built on top of that to customize it for my needs. Some helpful things to include is outlining the details of your agreement. So what am I expected to deliver to the client and how much are they going to be paying me, as well as a rough timeline so that your project doesn't drag on forever, and also your client has a good idea of when they might be able to see some results. You might also want to specify who owns the final product. So for example, are you licensing your work out? And if so, does your client need a commercial license? And like what type of medium are they using? Or is it going to be a TV commercial, for example, or is it a website? Is it a mobile app? What exactly are you delivering, and what are the rights that they have? There's a lot of nitty-gritty legalese I'm not going to get into too much here, but definitely do your homework. Go online, find any examples that are similar to what you're looking for your project, and make sure you protect yourself from vulnerabilities. As a freelancer, you generally get paid way more. I think I was making about like double the amount of my regular salary. And yeah, the money's good, and that's part of the reason why freelancing is so awesome. But I will say that it's because you have to take care of your own paperwork. There's no HR department. You have to do your own taxes. You have to pay for your own insurance. And in America, insurance can be a couple hundred a month. There's also no company match 401k, so you have to set aside your own money for your retirement. Well, if freelancing pays so much, then why isn't everyone doing it? And it's because freelancing really isn't for everyone. Not everyone can handle the stress of an unstable income, not knowing when the next paycheck is going to come. There's going to be dry spells for sure. Sometimes you might go months without a job and you start thinking, oh, maybe it's time to switch back to full-time because I don't know if I can handle this. I got bills to pay. When you're thinking about freelancing from a portfolio perspective, it's definitely quite different. So when you're a freelancer, you might be jumping in to help out on a project kind of as an extra pair of hands. So let's say, the project has already started, they've already done all the discovery in the beginning and all the research, and you're kind of coming in to help push pixels for a while. So, that project, you might be here for about 2 weeks and then you're out and you don't get to see it all the way through to production. So it might not be the most helpful when it comes to creating your own portfolio case studies because you haven't seen the project end to end. So hopefully that helps answer some of your questions about what it's like freelancing versus working full-time. I really, really enjoyed my time as a freelancer, and hopefully one day I can go back to it. But for now, I think because I'm still kind of starting out in UX, I want to get enough experience working on projects from start to finish as a full-time employee. If you have any more questions, be sure to leave in the comments. I read and answer every single one of them, and I'm just really here to try to help out as much as I can. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to like and smash the heck out of that subscribe button because it lets others know and get the word out that this channel might have information that's helpful to them. Until next time, bye.